From the nosebleeds to the studio, I'm your host, LJ. And today is a very special episode for me. I got two very special guests of mine, my fellow HQ writers, my brothers here. We got Luke and Kieran. Welcome in, my brothers. Welcome in.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Yo, how we doing? How we doing?
Good, good. Hold on. One more time. Let me round of applause. Introduce yourselves. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. Kieran, you first.
I'm KP20 Magic. I'm also part of the writing team over there at Atlanta Magic HQ, doing some big stuff here. We've been here about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
At least
And yeah, just excited to get on and talk some Magic ball with you guys while we're in this sort of dead zone of Magic talk.
Oh yeah, just talk in general. I mean, there's other sports, but there's the boring ones, as ones would say.
Yeah.
Baseball's not really in the peak time right now. Boxing, well, we had a good match a couple of weeks ago. It's been, so overall now it's like you mentioned, it's exciting to get back into this talk
The
for sure.
less we talk about my Red Sox, the better. So it's basketball
Yeah.
days.
All right, don't worry. We they're hated here, so that's easy enough. No, Jake. But
Um,
oh man, but in on that note, speaking of the Magic, it's been a few weeks since the summer league ended, and it's kind of been like you guys mentioned, it's been very quiet since that kind of happened. We had a lot of hype leading from the draft up until summer league, and then it just kind of fell off a cliff. So now that I think we've had a couple of weeks to kind of marinate in that silence and kind of look back at the off season, starting with the summer league, I guess. Luke, let's start with you. What was your overall impressions of our summer league?
yeah. I thought our summer league was an interesting showing. I really like what I saw from Anthony Black in particular. I thought the Magic looked significantly better and significantly smarter and more well organized when Black was in the court. I like him a lot as a facilitator, and it's translated to the NBA very, very, very well. He makes everyone on the team look so much better than they are, and you can tell the second he's off the court, everything just goes to a complete stance. And I like what I saw from Jet too. He's got a really nice shooting stroke. He can hit down a few shots. Would like to see a little bit more, or rather a little bit less, like just off the
Dribble.
off the creation. Yeah, over dribbling from him, and more just him embracing an off ball offense more, because that's the role that he's going to be asked to play most, especially this year. But liked what I saw from the rookies as a whole, especially Black. He makes this decision for Mose much harder as to who the starting guards are going to be.
Definitely. What about you, KP?
It's summer league, man. You're only on there for two names, and it was a rough watch when they weren't on the court. But Anthony Black definitely impressed, especially that first game out. He looked very poised. And one thing that I really liked is his floater game. That's something that a lot of the guards on our team, they kind of struggle with. I think it'll be nice to have a guard with a real good floater game on the court. But we'll see how much it translates into real game action. But it looked really sweet up on in Vegas. But I really like Jet Howard, especially that last game he had. You see the flashes of him being sort of like a Jamal Crawford type of player. Six man, kind of get him the ball, let him do some ISO. He's got a step back package. Guy could shoot. So a lot that you could be excited of uh, after you watch that. But other than that, I don't know if there's much special. They had I think it was a complete losing record. Nothing really in the victory column for the Magic. It was when it got down to it in the stretch, it was a little embarrassing. But it was definitely some good moments from the guys that we were there to watch. And
For
and
s-
I had said this earlier too. I think that when your team is bad at summer league, it's actually sort of a good thing. It kind of
yeah,
shows you've graduated that part of the rebuild where all your good players are chilling the summer league. Like, no offense, Detroit, Houston, all that. But
they're playing
you know,
hard.
yeah, you got Jabari Smith Jr., number 3 overall pick, playing the summer league. You know, I don't know, man. It shows that we're on a different level. With
Yeah.
all due respect, but
I'd
it
agree.
was a decent summer league in terms of just what we saw. That's probably the most you can ask for. I wasn't expecting the summer league championship or anything like that. I think the guys showed out what they had, and we have a lot to look forward to.
Yeah. And I'm gonna say it's a far cry from our reaction draft night. Okay. Let's
Here we
let's
go for
call it
reaction.
what it was. I don't think any of us were. It's not the players. It's I think the picks and how they went down, because I felt like
Yeah.
we didn't need to grab those players at those picks. So it always
I felt like both of those were
more.
trade down targets. You could have
Exactly.
traded down easily and got them. Because I remember I was on the phone with my brother-in-law when that had went down, and we were like, I don't have no hate towards their games, but man, you probably could have got them at like 8-20.
Yeah.
You probably didn't need them at 6-11, but they get your guy, I guess.
Mhm.
One thing that irks me about sometimes this front office is their lack of ability to maximize their assets when they have them.
Yeah. Agree.
You let these assets sort of dry out because you hold on to them for too long, or you're overconfident in a pick, and things just never pan out your way. For instance, like Chuma Okiki. I don't know if he's got much trade value at all going into the season, and I'm sure there were some guys that we held out value for in the past in terms of trying to build further assets and stuff like that. It kind of gets to you after over time. You love what the front office has done with a few of their past picks. Obviously, Paolo was the right pick. Franz was the right pick by far. But there's some things about it that
I,
it's still.
I'm still behind Suggs.
Yeah,
Honestly.
I think we all are.
I mean, it's gonna take some time. I see him as like a Marcus Smart type of ceiling guy. Which, hey, if that's the type of guy that'll bring you to a good playoff
We
run,
need it.
that'll be that glue guy. Yeah, we need it. But I like that we can see the flaws in their decision making, because one thing that I don't like is when the Magic fan base, everyone sort of acts like our front office is untouchable, like they're
They were.
amazing and they're perfect, like they've done their good you know deals here and there. I mean, the Vooch deal was pretty dang good, but there's definitely so many flaws that need to be addressed, and I feel like it's time that people start letting reality settle in. So, I mean, obviously, jury is still out on the rookies on if they were deserving of being picked higher than their mock, but we'll see, man. They've really got to hit on this, otherwise, not just the fan base, myself, I'm gonna have some problems with how the front office is running picks. I'm not gonna be liking it if this is the result of a 6-11 pick.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. All right. So speaking of that, those two picks out of Anthony Black and Jet Howard, who do you think will see the most playing time, at least starting first? What you think, Luke?
I think it's Anthony, just because of the higher pick, and just the fact that there's a lot more that he can do compared to Jet. I think he has a lot more power over the game of basketball than Jet Howard does. Jet's, as I mentioned earlier, he's best as an off the ball specialist, but can create for himself at times as a secondary or tertiary creator. And hell, even a primary character or a primary creator in the right system, in the right lineups. But Anthony Black is the kind of guy that has the ability and the power. How good of a facilitator he is, how good of a defender he is to influence the game of basketball beyond just shooting and somewhat infrequently creating. And I think he's going to get a lot more time, especially because this might be a year where Jet Howard watches for a lot of time, sits behind Joe Ingles even. I don't think that that's an impossibility. Whereas there are really real decisions that need to be made about the starting guard positions that Anthony Black is very much a part of. And those decisions can't be made without seeing who Anthony Black is and what he can do.
Okay. What about you, KP?
I feel like if we're talking about who's going to get the most minutes out of the two of them, honestly, I see a pathway for Jet getting a little more time.
That's kind of where I'm leaning, but
the only way I see AB getting more time than Jet is if either A, Jet just probably gets fallen out of the rotation completely, and we're witnessing a pretty bad scenario, practice behind the scenes, whatever, whatnot,
Mhm.
or B, one of Cole or Suggs gets kind of the cold shoulder, and Jamal starts to prioritize AB's development. We start to see him as the primary six man, you know, playing that sort of Josh Giddey role for us. And there's one of those two just gets kind of kicked out of the, you know, someone's gonna get lost in the mix. Like it happened to RJ Hampton last year. It's probably if AB will get more minutes than Jet, it's gonna be because one of Cole or Suggs is gonna get that same treatment that RJ did last year.
And I find that, see, I find that hard to believe. You
Oh,
know,
you
Paul,
find it hard to believe that it's gonna happen, or that
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 it'll that
yeah.
Cole or Suggs will lose their spot. You know,
That's what I'm
So
saying.
that's what I'm telling you is that it's gonna be complicated dealing with who's getting
yeah. So
what type of minutes.
that's why I'm leaning more towards Jet, because I feel like he's more, you know, you can put him anywhere, and you know what he's going to do? He's going to shoot. All right, which is what we desperately need in any lineup we try to put out there. What's the one thing we still need? Shooting. So
Shooting.
no matter what lineup I think we put out there, he fits. Whereas Anthony Black, yeah, he could play the three in scenarios, you know, but he's not really a three. He's a point guard. Let's be honest. You know, he's best with the ball in his hands, facilitating, which again, we're gonna see. But as we know, Cole is the best when he's scoring the ball. Suggs has learned he's learning to play better off the ball. I think that'll be the key to really determine. Um, to your point, there's anyone that'll lose minutes. It might be Suggs, because and it might be my fandom talking over Cole, but I just don't see it happening, because he brings something different from everybody else on the roster. He's, you know, his role is defined versus everybody else's. You know, he's coming in to get buckets, and that's it. You know, Cole don't worry about nothing else. So where
Yeah.
it's like, I feel like that's set in stone. I don't know.
Yeah, I will say I do agree that it's definitely that there's an easier pathway for Jet to get minutes because again, shooting is probably the most translatable skill in basketball, or at least one of the top skills that can easily translate in the entire sport. I just think that one, I think his game is a little bit too flawed as of right now, and I don't know if the signing of Joe Ingles, which we'll get to in this podcast, um, is going to conflict with that. And by that I mean if he learns Joe Ingles. And I also think that the other aspects of his games, other than shooting, creating, and being a pretty underrated passer for what he is and what his role is expected to be. The other stuff, the defense, the rebounding, needs a ton of work before he can get really consistent minutes. I wonder if he's going to be more out in more of a learning role. Whereas with Anthony Black, outside of that shot, he's one of the most NBA ready players in the entire draft. And I have a very strong feeling, knowing Mose and the types of plays that he likes to run, he is going to prioritize the heck out of Anthony Black. He's going to make a ton of lineups that surround him.
Good point.
And he's going to do everything he can to develop Anthony Black into this really good creator and facilitator and leader that they picked sixth overall. And that they wouldn't have picked him sixth overall if they like just to put him on the bench when they could have gotten a Taylor Hendricks, who they could have gotten outstanding use out of as well. They picked him sixth overall because they believe in him now and in the future, because this is one of the last years that we're going to be
Just high in the lottery.
like this high in the lottery, and they believe in him now, and they're going to believe in the future. So they're going to do everything they can to make sure that he has that ball and he has that opportunity, because if he has the chance to stand out the way that Suggs did, the way that Fultz did, the way that Cole did in their respective years first season in the league. Because if they don't, then one, the pick is a waste, and two, if he doesn't have that chance to stand out, then you don't have an answer as to the point guard debate. So like I do agree in the world of just like player in terms of minutes and skill sets, definitely Jet is more set up to have a much easier and more translatable role on a team that desperately needs shooting. But with Anthony Black and where the Magic are right now, what their roster is right now, I think they're going to give him a lot more chances than Jet Howard, especially because, again, the signing of Joe Ingles and the fact that Jet still needs a bit more time in the oven.
All right. So you mentioned the signing of Joe Ingles. This is going to bring me to my next point. And this is where I think opinions are going to vary between everybody, us three here, and then I think pretty much every fan that you'll ask out there. But what is going to be the first five off the bench? I think first let's start with the starters. I want to start there because let's face it, it's not locked in. I think we got 4 of the 5 positions locked in, but that shooting guard is still kind of up in the air.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you my opinion on that first. I've been back and forth on this 2 guard for so long. Part of me sees the obvious positives with Suggs, the defensive versatility, the two-way type, player that he is. But it's like when you look at that lineup, the one thing it's missing still is like Cole's aggressiveness, I would say, So it's like towards the end of last season, he played great with his role off the bench. I think he thrived well in that. So I think that's the way we're going. But if he ends up starting, I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the day. Again, might be a little bias showing, but ultimately, I do think Suggs earns that starting spot. And Cole thrives best off that 6-man, which again makes me question kind of where Anthony Black is going to get all of his minutes at. But starting 5, like I said, I got Markelle, Suggs, Franz, Paolo, and Wendell. I mean, you guys agree? You got any different?
I'll just say the same thing. Pretty standard. I see that the defensive identity that coach wants and that the front office wants, you're not going to be able to withhold that if you have Cole up in the starting lineup. That's just not going to happen. And like you said, he did so good in his six-man role on that bottom half of the year. I just don't see a way that they saw how much that contributed to winning basketball and say, let's change it up and let's do something different. No, it worked perfectly fine. Like we were about 500 that entire second half of the year. And a lot of that was in part to the fact that our bench got stronger once we had Cole running that second year. Now, the first half of the season is because we were, troubled with injuries, all that. But you saw how well everything gelled when they had their defined roles. No one was expecting Jalen to be a creator. When he gets pushed to the bench, that's when he gets expected to be a creator, and that's where a lot of his flaws are kind of displayed. So I think that is kind of a no-brainer. I know there's probably a lot of controversy about it because a lot of people don't like the way that Suggs is developed, but I just see him as complementary towards that starting unit. I wish the shooting was just a little bit more there. It showed improvement, but if it was just a little bit more there, I would feel 100%. But I feel a little more like 80% confident that Suggs should be the long-time starter at that position. Other than that's the same exact thing you had. Markelle, Suggs, Franz, Paolo, Wendell. Kind of.
Before you go, Luke, the Suggs slander needs to stop.
I agree. Yeah.
It really pisses me off. I'm going to be honest with you, because like they act like he's trash, and it's like I don't know. I and then we have these Toronto fans with the whole Scotty Barnes thing, try to hold that over us forever, and it's like, all right, look at year 2. And I don't know if you've seen the clips of him.
He shoots just as well as Suggs.
Couple of weeks ago, it was a clip of Scotty Barnes in like summer workouts, couldn't get a bucket on nobody. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that was crazy.
Hasn't really developed his one-on-one game yet. So I'm like, listen,
poor guy, man.
We've been able to see Suggs, and he's improved a lot. Like, yes, he's not going to be the lead guard. I think that's clear. That's obvious. But to think he's going to be a bum is freaking annoying.
Out of pocket, man.
Oh, for sure. And I agree with everything you were talking about, Kieran. Both of you guys talking about actually about how Suggs is developing actually rather nicely, albeit a bit slowly, slower than we thought that he'd be.
Injuries too.
The fact that he complements the roster very, very well as this ball of energy. I don't know how to describe it on offense, and this relentless defender that takes a lot of pressure off the perimeter, because I think that perimeter defense is a relative weakness for us outside of Suggs and a little bit of Markelle. He just fits the best in that role, and he doesn't take the ball out of Franz or Paolo's hands, and Cole does to a certain extent. significantly more than Suggs does, than Cole does. I fully agree that that Suggs, I think, is going to start that 2 spot. I don't know if Anthony Black is going to take that from him, or heck, even from Fultz. If Fultz is just stagnant, which is a conversation that I think is going to take. I don't see it happening either, but
I mean, Fultz is the key of everything.
Black's going to start at the bench, and I think he's going to stay there for now. But it's just a matter of I don't know when. But as far as first 5 off the bench, to your question before, I think it's Cole, AB, Gary, J.I., Ingles. Not in that order. Ingles is not playing the center.
So Ingles 5.
Dude, I cannot wait for whatever.
5, Ingles 4.
The amount of I think Mo's gonna have a stroke if he saw Ingles anywhere near the 5, just based on the lineups that he's been putting out. But something along those lines, maybe a little mix and match. We have Goga, we have Jet there for those reasons in case one gets hurt, or if Ingles doesn't transition to that 4 spot well. That lack of a true backup 4 that isn't Jonathan Isaac, Mr. Reliable Jonathan Isaac, is going to probably hurt us long term. But I think that is a decently solid backup 5. And he's still got some guys, and I'm probably forgetting somebody. I feel like I'm forgetting someone or something, and one of you can chime in if I am.
Mo Wagner.
Yeah, so far not. But Chuma. That's how I feel like it's gonna look. Yeah. But yeah, I'm definitely open to changing my opinion, because that front court looks a little bit funky. But those are just at least the first 5 that make the most sense with the roster right now, I think.
Yeah, I see it kind of the same way. I think it's probably AB 6-man as a point guard. You got probably Cole running the 2. Then for me, it's weird with Jet. I don't know if he's going to be a 3rd stringer. I'm not sure. Like you said, it all depends on how he fits in with the guys like Mo Wagner, like Mr. Reliable. I don't know how that's going to work. But
I'm forgetting.
You have these guys coming off the bench. We have sort of a decent. I mean, Goga he's Goga.
He's 3rd string for sure, though. Goga's without a doubt.
Love the guy, but he's a break glass in case of emergency. If you really, really need to have 2 big
solid big man.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Chuma. He's not getting in there unless blowout, garbage time. I think that what you get in those from that 3, 4, and 5 spot off the bench is going to be really weird. It's not going to be stable at all throughout the year, because I know that there's going to be sometimes there's going to be a few games where J.I. is back and he's obviously not a starter anymore. So you have to just accept that he's going to be probably there on the bench a few games, and you got to adjust because, where is Joe Ingles going to get minutes? Is Joe Ingles going to get minutes? He's there mainly for the locker room presence. Jet deserves some minutes for sure. And then Mo Wagner, Goga, all that it's a big jumble. I'm not going to try to guess that 3, 4, and 5, but if I were to pick right now, everyone healthy, I would say AB, Cole, Jet, J.I., and Mo Wagner.
Okay.
No Gary.
No Gary.
Interesting. I like to amend mine actually because I forgot, because Mo was the guy that I forgot. It's for me it's AB, Cole, Gary, Mo, J.I., and Mo and J.I. can be in some order. I just forgot he existed. I think Jet's gonna have his first year, kind of learning under the guys like Gary and Joe, coming into his own as a player. I'd love to be proven wrong, and I hope that I am, and I can't wait until I am. But that's just the way the roster looks. And I think once Gary leaves, because unfortunately it's probably going to happen within the next
I think he's gone
a year and a half or so, Jet fills in that role just nicely.
So it's
locking that in.
Yeah. it's the JI wild card. You know, that's
Yeah.
that's
Will he have knees?
will he, won't he? That's really the thing that's making it kind of difficult. But again, assuming healthy, you're assuming he's definitely in that lineup. Um, to me, I love Mo Wagner too much for him to not get those minutes off the bench at center, like especially after what he proven last year, just the energy. And then shoot, when there was that like few game stretch where he was starting, he was putting up damn near 20 points. Like he was doing real good. So personally, I'd seat him at the 5, Isaac at the 4. This is where it kind of varies. It really doesn't matter, but this is where I think we'll see Mo's probably got to get tricky. Probably put AB at the 3, Gary at the 2, and Cole at the 1. But those three are kind of interchangeable to a degree. But I'm going strictly based off height at this point, and putting Anthony Black at the 3, he can still play his facilitator role. His do it all kind of player. So I think that works out well. Because he's really is the trickiest fit in this all, because if his shooting gets better, potential is limitless. But just as is, he's an interesting puzzle piece that I think can fit in multiple ways. It's just a matter of actually trying it and seeing what works, and whether we're ready to whether we're gonna let them make. One of the front office really is going to let Mose make these mistakes again for another season. Because as good as a coach as I think he is, patience is only going to last for so long if we keep losing.
I got a question for y'all. Let's say hypothetically Fultz gets hurt. Knocking on all the wood that I can possibly find at this desk, but let's just say hypothetically Fultz gets hurt. Who's first man up?
Probably AB.
I'm thinking it's AB too.
Probably because you're not going to get that level of like kind of playmaking and defense mixed with Cole. You're not going to get that with Suggs. With the playmaking, it's not really there. It's there, but it's not really there. I feel like AB kind of has both of those combined better than Cole and Suggs already. And that's what makes a starting caliber point guard is playmaking and defense. Everything else gets sort itself out. That's why I think that, like I said, AB is probably on a much better pathway to get development and get minutes and get plays run for him, because coaches, not even just Coach Mose, coaches in general are just nutty for players like AB, where they're oversized so they could do multiple positions when needed, and they could play make and they can play defense. That's all you can really ask for in a starting caliber point guard. And you can ask for more because they're all-star levels, but if that were to happen, I feel like AB is kind of easily the next man up at the point guard position.
Yeah, I hate to admit it, but we've already seen Cole as a starter. Granted, team wasn't as good, but I think we've seen it. I think we know the ceiling of it. So
he is who he is.
I hate to admit it. Again, my bias, but you're right. I think you guys got to be right on that one.
He's who he is. Like he's closer to not really Jamal Crawford, but he's closer to one of those isolation heavy off guards than anywhere near to a point guard. Like it's just not there, and that's nothing wrong with that. He's still perfectly capable player, but that's not his bread and butter, and we're not expecting it to be.
No, for sure. So continuing on some expectations for the squad. Let's start with record. Where do you think we're gonna put this on the record? What do you think our final finish in the standings?
What were we last year again?
About 36, 35?
34 and 48 last year. 13th in the East. We're definitely better. Charlotte and Detroit are not better than us.
Do we get
better than Washington?
41? Do we get 500?
I think we get around, if not under 500. I think we're a play-in team for sure. Depending on if anything goes wrong in Toronto or Chicago.
which it looks like it is.
We're either a play-in team or just hovering below. But I think this is going to be a very important year for us. I think we're still a little too young to make a huge splash, but I think that we're still a good and respectable basketball team. Like I don't think that we're gonna be like we're better than like now. We're better than Detroit. We're better than Charlotte. We're better than Washington. I think we're around Indiana. I don't know. I don't know who's better between us and Indiana.
Well, Brooklyn.
Ooh, Brooklyn's a good one.
All
I
they
think
got is McHale and Cam.
I think Bridges is for real.
I think we could be better than both, honestly. I mean, Brooklyn probably they might be a little bit ahead, but just based
I think
on
Brooklyn's ahead of us
they
in the
got.
play-in team, but they're gonna like not be 6 anymore.
I think Brooklyn's gonna be kind of be like the Jazz were last year, where no one was expecting them to be like kind of poised and so well set up, but they were.
Yeah,
And
no,
I
I
they
think
think
they're
kind
gonna be better than Utah was last year, but I think that they held their own pretty well. A lot of their wins since the trade deadline were very convincing. I look back at that amazing Celtics comeback. I think it was early March when everything like they play out of their minds, and it's wins like that I feel like they are for real, and they didn't lose too much. And if they can put themselves together, then they're I think they're going to be better than a lot of people think they are, but not anywhere near competitive for a championship. I don't think we're better than them yet, but we will be within a couple of years for sure.
Listen, yeah, I definitely think we're a playing team without a shadow of a doubt. Again, we're just looking at the play-in last year. All right, 1 through 10: Milwaukee, Boston, Philly, Cleveland, Knicks, Nets, Hawks, Heat, Raptors, Bulls. Again, you mentioned Raptors, Bulls. I think we jumped them. Atlanta. As much as I love Trey Young, I think we're better. I personally do, because literally it's just them two.
For context,
And
Atlanta was 500, so that's so they're the bar.
so
If you want to go for 500,
yes,
like are we better than Atlanta?
yeah, and they were the 7th seed, so they were at the top of
Mhm.
the play-in. So, can we do that? Yes,
We can for sure.
I think we can. So,
I
and
think our ceiling is like 7. Our ceiling is like, depending on how good Paolo and Franz are, I think our ceiling is like our absolute tip top ceiling is 4.
and listen,
But
Miami Heat made the finals, but let's not forget they were
yeah,
the
no,
8th seed. Okay,
I'm just saying as far as record goes.
so no. I'm saying that for better for our chances. Remember, let's
Yeah.
not forget, Miami Heat might have made it to the finals, but they were the 8th seed.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I think
that's very far fetched. But you know, you never know.
no. I'm not
Paolo's
saying
MVP
we were
on
gonna go to
top.
the finals. Let me clarify. I didn't say we're gonna have the same run. What I'm
Look at them.
saying was them being at 8, shows that all right, these standings are flexible right now, because
Oh yeah.
they show they're probably going to be better than 8, which again gives them probably that 6th spot, which gives us ample opportunity to get in there.
Well, yeah. Traditionally, Miami was never really an AC. I mean, that's always kind of been their MO, was kind of take a back seat in regular season and then pour everything and invest into Jimmy Butler come playoffs and give him the special treatment, whatever he needs to just, go crazy, right? At Miami, no one's expecting their real seed to actually be what it is, because they're not going to play like it in the
Yeah.
playoffs, that's for sure. But when it comes to us, I feel like we didn't do a good enough job of signing,
Yeah.
veterans here and there over the past couple years for us to be kind of on that level of, okay, we have enough star power and we have enough things around us to make sure we're prepared for the moment. This team, play in, playoff, or lottery, whatnot, whatever happens, if there is an offseason with this team, I'm just not expecting them to do anything big because
Yeah.
they're too young. They're not ready for the moment. It's just I'm being realistic here. I love my
Yeah.
team. I love my fans. I love the fan base, but it's it's really nothing you can really expect out of this team more than maybe a gentleman sweep
Mhm.
because realistically, it's not gonna unless Paolo just takes this superb like MVP level Tim Duncan type of jump. You're not gonna see a deep playoff run, but and that's okay. You know, you got to make progress somehow. I feel like record wise, the best they could probably do is maybe I'd say slightly over 500, like 40, 42, 40. That's
I think that's fair.
probably a best case scenario. Worst case scenario, I'd say we kind of bottom out and do something like we did last year. You know, 12th, 11th seed, 37, 36 wins. I just don't see a way that, you know, there's going to be a huge jump or whatever. It's just the foundation is not fully set. It's getting there. It's not set though.
No, definitely not set. But again, I just find it hard to believe that we can't make a jump considering how well the season ended last year, and then just looking at the landscape of the rest of the league, like yeah, teams got better, but the teams that got better were the teams that were already like kind of competing at the top. So
Yeah, I said that
yeah,
too. I
for
think that
them.
that's probably our wild card is hoping that these teams that made so many trades and are on such a clear path to a rebuild, that they're really really rough. Because knowing the Magic, we could try our best and we still might not be better than a tanking team. I've just seen that happen before.
Too many times. Yeah, no, you're
So
right.
I'm not I'm not putting anything. I'm not gonna cross anything off officially. You know, nothing set in stone. But if you really look at the teams like we had just outlined, like Luke had just outlined, there's plenty of teams that we have more than enough star power to beat in the standings. I think there's a guaranteed. I think we have the first three seeds. We're not even close to 15, 14, or 13. I'm not expecting anything from Washington, Detroit, or Charlotte. That's just not going to happen.
Mhm.
I'll bet my life savings on that. That's not going to happen. But when you get
Cade
to the
MVP
12th seed,
season, can't count that out.
psh, nah, he's barely like a sophomore at this point. I,
I'm just gonna keep going.
I think that there's a lot to be said about where we're going to end up. It's going to be somewhere between 12 and 8. I'm going to call it like that. Somewhere between 12 and 8. 7 or 6 maybe. That's just we got the Lord on our side. Everything's going perfect. You know, we haven't missed a beat. You know, no injuries whatsoever. That's like crazy, crazy, insane scenario. But realistically, 12 through 8, it's too unpredictable. I cannot make a prediction, so I guess I'll just be in the middle, say 10 seed.
Okay. Final prediction, Luke.
Final prediction as far as record goes.
See the record. Yeah, where do you think they finish?
I do think we're winning more than 34 games this year. I think we're in the think we're in the early 40s. I'll give it probably about 40, anywhere from like 38 to 45. I think realistically. Again, I think if everything goes absolutely right, like if if God, Allah, whatever God you listener are believing in blesses our favorite basketball team, and Paolo becomes an MVP, Franz becomes an all-star, Suggs becomes the perfect basketball player that we all know who he is, and we end up with like the 4 seed or something like that.
Mhm.
But realistically, I think we're in that play-in hunt for sure. Teams like Indiana, teams like Chicago, teams like Toronto. I think those teams are fair competition as far as our skill and ability goes.
Yeah. All right. So my final prediction. I think we finish 500. I'm gonna say it 41-41, and I'll say we're the ninth seed in this scenario. So we're in that play-in, gives us a shot to move up to that seventh seed or eighth seed to possibly get in. And I do think we do, depending on who we get. Because, well, I mean, we do need to win 2 games in that scenario, but yeah, we got
It's
some
gonna
we
be
got
tough.
some dogs with us.
We do have
So
some dogs. That's
we
true.
Yeah.
got some dogs. So not out of the realm of possibility. All right. So That's gonna do it for the basketball talk. We're gonna wrap it up shortly here, but before we get it, you know, Magic fans, I'm sure you've all been privy to the news lately, and
Yeah,
it would be wrong if we didn't talk about it.
It's about the only thing in the basketball Orlando Magic world that's going
Yes.
on right now.
So, the name right there.
I love
DeVos
DeVos family as your header.
I know.
Those of you who aren't listening on or watching on YouTube.
Exactly. So for those listening, mention DeVos family, but for those watching on YouTube, you see a little ticker down there at the bottom. So we're gonna talk about it. They recently were been in the news and have faced a lot of controversy, at least online, for donating $50,000 to Ron DeSantis's presidential campaign. It being the first time they've ever done so. I would just say, for starters, I know me, I don't know if shocked is the right word, but
I would not have been shocked if I were you.
No. Shocked was definitely not the right word, but appalled, I think, is the right. I think might be the right way to put it.
Can I say this? I don't even think. I think the biggest shock about this whole thing is that we know how much money the DeVos family has. 5,000, 50,000 is like them giving like $1. Like,
no, yes, it is.
That was just a message. They didn't care about how much money or nothing. They could have given him millions. They gave him $1 in relative to their sense. So they were just like, here, we're showing that we're supporting this guy. They didn't care about, how much the money amount. That was my biggest shock. I was like, dang, only 50,000 from y'all. Like, okay.
They're really trying to get it out there.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is not a political show. We're not here to get too serious politically, but it needs to be talked about. And personally, it leaves a sour taste in my mouth, in the sense of just like, if this is the first time you're gonna do it, DeSantis ain't the one, guys. Yeah. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Okay, I'm not. Again, we're not politicians here, but my own opinion is this man ain't right for the job. I'll tell you right now, I would rather have Trump again than I would ever want to see DeSantis in the office. And
the fact that I agree with you is
DeSantis takes the worst qualities I think that Trump had, and is like pushing it forward, and like making it literally his own. And I don't know, as someone who's lived in Florida his whole life, born and raised, it's leaves me a little kind of again, upset's not the word. I'm not upset. It's just leaves me a little uneasy. I think it's right.
I think especially it's been something that's kind of been personal to me, because I have family that works in like education, and if anyone, you got to kind of keeping up with what he's been doing to a lot of things in education. There's reading restrictions he's been implementing that are literally hindering kids' ability to learn and grow. There's things that are just been way too out of pocket in terms of restricting what can be learned, and especially some things that are very insensitive to minorities, groups of minorities in America have suffered, that their history is being wiped away. It's not something that anyone in their right mind can say, I support that, and he's 100% right in that. You can't say that about when it's wiping away people's entire history. That's just not right. So it's not something that I can personally vouch for ever. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just going to piggyback on what y'all have said as well. As a straight white man, I don't have the same experiences that a lot of other fans have with, or at least personal experiences have with DeSantis. But I definitely can at least empathize, and for that reason, Kieran, you mentioned that you had family in the education business. I do as well. I am the product of two teachers, and having Jay, you're right. Like, DeSantis is a very interesting hill for the Magic to die on. A guy that recently wrote a letter to Kamala Harris saying that slavery was to the benefit of Black people. A guy whose litigation has damaged the safety of several minorities, not least of which being the LGBTQ plus community in Florida, unlike anything ever before. This is a man who, and in my opinion, I don't expect everyone to agree with me, but in my opinion, Ron DeSantis is a man who cares about power and power alone, and knows his base, and is smart enough to do just enough to gain trust from that particular power base, to be sensationalist. And the thing with DeSantis is that we can't just go, oh, they can donate to whoever they want, because DeSantis's weakness is that he does that. The media and people with voices don't criticize him enough. And when people do criticize him, he whines about it and like a spoiled 10-year-old, because hasn't really faced a lot of media criticism. And I think it's important for us to say that we as fans, or at least the three of us, I can speak for the three of us and a lot of other fans who don't support this decision. Most of the players, except for one, definitely don't support this decision. And we'll get to him in a second. And I super agree with the EPA statement about it. I will say I believe that they put out a statement saying that this was before, that they gave it to him before they announced his presidential bid, which doesn't make things
doesn't change it.
It's sort of like, here, you should go do it.
Yeah, which makes it a little bit worse. For the DeVos family to use the Magic as that vehicle, because we all know it's the DeVos.
They've never done it. That's just where it's.
There's been embarrassing times as fans. There's been plenty of embarrassing times where you see a certain someone, we'll get to him in a bit, and DeVos family issues, and they're in the news, and this is the majority of what people are seeing related to the Orlando Magic. Yes. They're not seeing stuff like Paolo and Franz. No, they're seeing stuff that literally paints us as a bigoted fan base, and it's hard, man, because it makes it harder to go and tell people you're a Magic fan.
Mm-hmm. And then the biggest thing, and we talked about this briefly off camera, is, did they forget that we got Disney right here on our jerseys?
Who's the one person
that Ron DeSantis did in that Disney spat?
Who are they actually supporting? That's the hard part. You don't even know who they're actually.
It's kind of it's regardless, it's questionable at best, because it's like, okay, you're sponsored by Disney. Clearly, they had their influence well in the Amway Center. I think we all can attest to that.
For sure.
So, what, are you alienating Disney now? Because clearly, these two sides aren't on the same page.
Business decision of all time is to
again, it's
Disney.
It's mixing business with pleasure. It seems like
I mean, choosing a politician over a $1 trillion company that could sponsor you and you could further a business model with probably would be the dumbest thing you could do.
And it seems like that's kind of the route they're going. I mean, obviously not explicitly, but it's like, again, it's hard to look at this happening and like, all right, are we missing something?
Yeah. Like, they can't even make a statement about it, because like it was the owners who did it.
Who's gonna tell the owner what they can and cannot do?
Like, I'm sure not. Like, I would like to believe that 90%, if not more, 90% of the people in the Orlando Magic organization do not outwardly support the donation of any political candidate, let alone someone like this. Just like it's like, as conservatives say, keep politics out of sports. Obviously, there are certain things that politics need, like human rights, for instance, need to be addressed in sports where there's such a huge platform. But when it's just things like elections, I don't even know if I agree with it if it's a politician that I would like that I like, and I definitely don't agree with it. Using an entire team with people who are
Individuals.
individuals
No,
there, people who like full of people who don't believe. And I know that for a fact because the NBPA had to say, "Hey, DeSantis is." I mean, they didn't say DeSantis is a fascist, but like he is.
I
Sorry,
think you're saying it's tacky. It's tacky, is
sorry,
what it is.
it's tacky.
It's very tacky.
It's just it's a bad it's at best a bad, awful business decision, and at worst, it it alienates fans who feel threatened by people like DeSantis.
it's just yeah, and again, the biggest gripe is like, okay, if you're gonna, it's made the news. It's made because it was done through the Magic.
Yeah, and
Wasn't
that's the
This
part.
wasn't an independent donation because I'm sure they've donated to presidential candidates in the past themselves. They have.
Mhm.
The difference was this time they used the Magic money to do so,
That's the
which is
thing. And
where this is a problem because you basically, in that instance, you're saying this is what our team believes in. This
for
is what
sure.
we support. This
And
is
like
what
I
the
don't
fan base
yeah,
supports. This is what we're all behind. And it's obvious that is not the case. So
yeah.
it
And this isn't a Republican versus Democrat thing. It is a this particular guy thing.
I would
Because
not.
like um, most people do not feel endangered by singular political candidates. Lot of people that I know personally, that we know personally, in Florida, feel like their lives are at risk because of DeSantis, and I'm not even being dramatic about that.
No, that's not even
And
a. That's not even.
what message and what pisses me off the most? What message does that send to your players, to your fans, to anybody who even remotely likes the Orlando Magic and wants to associate in some way with the Orlando Magic? Hey, we went out of our way to give this a lot of amount of money. We, not the DeVos family, we gave this amount of money to this guy who has said some pretty awful things to
Yeah.
different groups of people, and it's an awful stance to have, and it's one that I and most of us, even just for the principle of don't use an entire team to donate to politicians, that's a stance that I think most of us can fully support and rebuke the Orlando Magic. It's not enough for me to question my fandom, but it's enough for me to look back and think you guys messed up and fix it.
Big time.
No, 100%.
Mhm.
And again, it's something that need to be talked about at the end of the day. I feel like everyone was being a little trying to tiptoe around the subject a little bit too much.
Mhm.
But I feel like as fans and as reporters, we just something that
Doing your
we
job, and
need to
these
talk
are
about.
real
We gotta
players.
do
These
it.
are
Yeah,
individual players who they're representing the team. They're wearing this jersey that says Orlando Magic on it, night in and night out. And the people who are writing your checks are also supportive of a guy who thinks slavery was good.
Yeah.
Like that. I put it plain and simple.
yeah,
And
just
I,
like that.
I and you know what else it does? It drives these players away from wanting to be associated with us. That's something. If I
Oh,
was,
and rep us outside of just work, outside of just
I
when
don't
they
know.
play, like
At that point, it's like you're kind of being, just that makes me feel like if I was in that position and I would have to be forced to rep the Orlando Magic outside of it, I'd be like, first you guys need to clear the air. First, you guys got to do something, make a public statement because I'm not gonna go and wear stuff like that while you over here supporting people who talk down
mhm.
on you know groups of people that are
And
this
make
is
up the
not at
NBA.
all. Yeah, you can't just say that you expect these players to accommodate and expect the same treatment going forward. Because if I was a player in that situation, I would be like, I'm not wearing a single piece of Magic clothing outside of work. unless you guys clear the air. I'm not going to represent an organization that doesn't feel like that doesn't want to represent me.
Yeah. No, agreed,
Pretty
agreed.
plain and simple. If they don't want to represent me, I'm not going to represent you.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're doing by sending that money, sending the message.
And then, so our final subject of the evening, we mentioned him briefly, kind of still on the subject of I I, I want to say controversy, loosely to a degree, because I think most people are kind of over him for the most part, but you know who we're talking about, Jonathan.
Surprise.
I mean, recently come out and just announced his whole shoe brand, his whole clothing brand. Announced the meaning behind it, and he's going to be wearing it on court and da da da, and just really really bunkering down on this whole what is it notion that he spilled from back when he stood from the anthem, or while the rest of the team was kneeling. Again, from that moment, it's not that I it's not that I'm like disagree with him or I'm upset with him or anything like that. It's just weird to me from the jump. It's always been like disingenuous in a sense, because I felt like basketball needed to be the priority, and it seemed like all this other stuff was a distraction from that. You know, obviously he believes in what he believes in, and that's that's that. Um, but this excuse me, connects to our earlier point, where at this point it's becoming, I think, a bit more of a distraction for the team than it is of someone like of thinking these individual thoughts. Like everyone's now is associating Jonathan Isaac and the Magic with the entire like Magic organization. It seems like that's how City of Orlando thinks. That's how Florida, like Orlando and for example, Orlando, Miami, two totally different places from how people live. You know what I'm saying? So it's like he he's made it really difficult to get behind him when on the court he hasn't produced. He just seems like, again, he's a bigger distraction than he should be. I don't
Yeah,
know. What you guys think?
I'd like to preface
Totally agree.
what I'm about to say with an acknowledgement to anybody who says, "Oh, you guys are just hating on JI because he thinks differently. He's saying what he believes in, and is that a crime?" What does he believe in? Like actually, what is he standing up for and
It's the
believing in
same,
other than
Bigotry.
free speech?
same thing
Which is
every
not a
time.
stance, because I don't think free speech is being threatened in the United States, and it's disrespectful to the countries where free speech is being threatened. And you can bring up the arguments all you want about the Black Lives Matter protests and the players. You can bring up all the NBPA statement about DeSantis all you want. Well, at least those players are actually standing for core issues that are affecting genuine human beings in the United States, standing up for human rights. What is QAnonathan Isaac standing up for other than his new shoe and his new book and his new excuse for why he can't play? What is he standing up for? As far as I'm concerned, he can't even stand up because his knees don't work.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a
That was
theory
a rhetorical
actually.
question.
I have very much a theory. After all the injuries and the fact that everyone knew this guy, his career as a basketball player is kind of cooked, right? He had his set of beliefs before, and they just said, you know, let's have a PR blaze of glory. Let's get him all the attention that he needs, and let's come up with ways to really stir up the controversy and just really exploit the fact that this guy has some wacko ideals and go from there. And
Look,
it's been working. I mean, look at this. This guy has not touched an NBA season at a real level in like what 2 years, 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
and
well,
everyone's
2019
talking about
was
his shoe
the full
brand.
season, so
Everyone is
Yeah.
talking about this guy's shoe brand,
we're
who
talking.
never touches the basketball court.
I wouldn't buy a shoe from a guy who can't say nothing.
Yeah, no, it's
So there's your answer. Like, dude, he's got people talking about him, and he's got all these things surrounding him. When a lot of the casual audience thinks Orlando Magic, they think Jonathan Isaac. And why is that? Because he's made a big image for himself by pandering to the people who are just, worst of the worst, right? And it's been working. That's my theory. And I feel like in the locker room, there's got to be so much tension. I mean, even if you want to ignore it as much as you can, those players have got to know, hey, this guy is really associated with people that don't like me. I probably shouldn't associate with him on too personal of a level.
Listen, I was there his first game back. I was there at the press conference, and like, you could feel it, bro. It was just very uneasy, like, because everyone wants to talk about it, but no one has the balls to really bring it up. So it was kind of like, all right, we're not going to talk about what we really want to talk about, but we'll just, we'll keep it basketball.
Welcome back.
But it's like, man hasn't played basketball since 2019. How much can he really contribute into talking about his game when he's never on the damn court? So it's like, it's again, it just seems like a desperate play to stay relevant. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I agree.
I hope that, again, we want to make this clear. Like, believe in what you believe in.
Believe in what you want to believe. And we're not going to stop
you
you
at all. But if I'm a fan of this team and I work for the team, I have an opinion. I can have an opinion on this team.
Precisely. And
if we invest in something this much, screw what anybody says about you. Can't.
Dude, we've been Magic fans for how many years?
Our lives. We can
talk about it. So
and I'd like to say for sure that like this is not a matter of like you can't believe in things that you don't want to believe. Like if you are a like fiscally conservative, like if you have conservative like ideologies, traditions, whatever, knock yourself out. Believe what you want to believe. We're criticizing our favorite basketball team, endorsing politicians who have passed litigation that seriously threatens fans of their own team's livelihoods, and we're criticizing one of our favorite team's players for grifting to the to the crazies. And like, I'm sure he's a nice person to be around, and I don't even believe that he believes in half the things that he says. I think he's just a really about Christian, and that's it. And again, because like he's not bringing up any important issues. Like again, at the very least, with Ennis' Sound of Freedom, at least he was like he started off his thing mentioning very real issues with the whole with the treatment of the Uyghur workers. That is a real issue, and then he became the Fox News Man of the Year, I think it was. Jonathan has never really had that other than like I stood for the flag because I don't know why I stood for the flag. I don't read the book. I'm not gonna read the book. And it's like, acknowledge it for what it is. It's a grift. It's a massive grift. This guy doesn't care about your ideology. He just cares about making the biggest buck possible. And that's up to you guys. And if he and
more power to you for
again, I believe he's probably a much better person than the person that like he's portraying himself to be. I really do believe that. I just think that like some of these actions are so very obviously catered towards, very blatantly catered towards a specific audience to try and win him over. Because as you both were saying, I super agree. It is a plea to stay relevant, because there was none of this when he was the 6th pick in the NBA draft. There was none of this when nobody came to his
when he was second in DPOY race.
To his thing.
None of that.
I believe that one time when he invited his the Magic to go to his and no one came. That was That was his Joker villain arc story.
I already knew what you
That's
were
when
talking
it
about,
started.
man.
He became the Joker after that. But again, acknowledge what he's doing for what it is. It's a massive, massive, massive grift, and one that I'd really rather just not want to talk about. He can believe what he wants to believe. He can say what he wants to believe, and we're not going to stop him. I just want you guys, as listeners, as Magic fans, to know exactly what he's doing. We want you guys to know exactly what he's doing.
And again, it just seems very disingenuous when you really look at it, and it's just like and if you guys know me, if you don't know me, I'm a firm believer in truly, really, bro, believe in what you believe in, just stand behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you not standing behind is what I have a problem with.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're flip floppy, you're not you're not true to what your word is. It's
Stick
like,
to your word. Yeah.
we all that's all we got at the end of the day is our word. And I feel like especially celebrities and athletes, I think we idolize them a little bit too much. And if anything, this is an example of reasons why we shouldn't, reasons why we don't need to, because
I totally agree.
And it's all reasons why we need to have these uncomfortable conversations, because Magic basketball is not some untouchable thing where, it's separated from reality. It's sacred. Let's, let it be its own thing. No, you have to understand that these are businesses run by real people like you and I, who employ real people like you and I, and they're carrying out their business in a certain way. We as fans and supporters, sort of investors pretty much,
Mhm.
deserve to have a voice and deserve to have that voice known, that we're not just gonna sit here and stand and just let this be.
Listen, we'll end it like this. Well, for the most part, so we saw the bubble. Okay, let's remember what it was without fans. We are the livelihood of professional sports. Okay, they only have what they have because of us. Okay,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
so I think for us to not try to act like we don't have a bigger say in things is wrong. But also, I'm not also not big on like cancel culture and stuff like that. I'm not saying we all got to go crazy
Sure.
on
Yeah.
on everybody, but like I think we need to be taken more seriously, and I think our opinions need to be out there more for that reason, because these teams need to hear, like the Boss family needs to hear some opinions of some, not only fans, of people who worked for you guys, worked with you guys, worked under you guys.
A lot of those people, they're so separated from reality. They don't have a grasp on what do the real people actually live like? What do the 99% live like?
Mm-hmm.
They
So
don't know.
they have the margin of error to make voice these opinions, and to understand why, because they're the elite of the elites.
All right, guys. Before we wrap up today, just want to give you guys, listeners, a little heads up. Stay tuned. So, OrlandoMagicHQ.com. We're gonna be having a collaborative article coming out soon.
Yes, sir.
Again, kind of talking about all this, but in the words, give you guys a little bit time to just kind of sit down and kind of review our takes on how the offseason went, etc. And again, kind of looking forward to what we got coming soon. This August, September is pretty slow for NBA, for Magic news, but we wanted to bring you this at least to give you something. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, KP, for coming on.
Yes,
Happy
sir.
to
Yes,
be
sir.
here.
Great. Again, round of applause one more time for you guys.
Honored.
So again,
Appreciate it,
thank you
man.
guys for checking us out. You guys can follow us here. What is it? Usernames? Go ahead. Better you guys say it than me.
L Scotchy 34 on Twitter. Luke Scotchy on Instagram. Hit me up.
KP20
I'm always
Magic.
ready to talk hoops. Sorry, Kieran.
Oh yeah, no, you're good. KP20 Magic on Twitter, Kieran P20 on Instagram. Like I said, me and Luke, always good to talk hoops. Throw us a follow, reply to us. We're always good to talk for it.
Facts.
Go and follow Jay too.
Give them a follow.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
follow me. ILJI3LJAY. Those of you who know, that's going to be on every social platform. That'll be the same. And again, hopefully we'll be seeing you guys soon. We talked about getting our HQ hoop session in, so hope we can plan that
Hey,
sooner than
listen,
later.
I'll
I
come
don't know.
to
I've been hitting
It's,
y'all up in the chat. No one's
I'll come
been. No
down
one's
for
been.
it.
we're ready to cook. It's
Yeah.
been years, but I'm ready to cook.
I would cook all of you guys respectfully. I'm just.
Man,
Yeah.
once I'm back down, I'm going to be bothersome about getting that organized because I will cook. I haven't touched a basketball in about a year and a half, but I will cook.
See, that's the difference. See, Luke, I hoop every week, man. I'm not. I have no rusty in me. All right.
I love it. I love it.
Well,
Can't
then
wait.
it's fun.
Yeah, it's my first year getting back into it in like 9 years, so it's.
I don't have any. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any
I'm
skills.
just trying to
I got
scratch that itch. So let's get it. All right, y'all boys. Thank you.
Yes, sir, man.
Yes, sir.
Hey, thank you for
Yeah.
having us on, man. Appreciate it.
So.